Hey famous warrior, welcome back to our channel. Today we have our second installation of our Shadow Ground conversations, and I am super excited about the direction that these conversations are taking. I know this is only the second, but if you watch the first one, you know that God is really up to something. And I am just honored and excited to be part of what He wants to do, not just this year, but for as long as these videos will exist out there in the interwebs. So today I have the honor and privilege of having an amazing person here with me who is going to share not just their story but also their insights as a medical professional, and I am super excited for the direction that this conversation has the potential to take. So I hope you will tune in, listen, lean into the conversation, and I hope that it blesses you. So I have Dr. Kunda here with me. If you don't know this person, I don't know what rock you are living under, because she's making waves in the best way on social media, Instagram, TikTok, in her career as a mom. She's sharing all the things, and in a very practical, interesting way that I like. So if you don't know this person, I hope that you get onto her socials and start following her. But yeah, thanks for coming, Dr. Kunda.
Thank you for having me, Louise. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. From the last time we spoke at the Shadow Ground launch, I think we had quite a conversation. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. So in true famous warrior fashion, if you've watched any of our episodes, we always start by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves, and so that the audience, can feel like they know you as they listen to your story. So share with us 5 fun facts about yourself.
5 fun facts. Okay, I don't know about fun, but but there are facts.
Yes.
So 5 facts about me. I'm a twin mom.
Yes.
As you know, I have identical twin girls, Chipo and Tinta. I'm a vegan. That's fun, right?
Yes.
I lost 20 kgs. I'm a medical doctor. Because people will always ask you, what kind of doctor are you, right?
Real,
and I'm like, I'm the real kind. That's 4.
Yes.
Then 5, I'm from the Copper Belt. I'm from Chingola.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Mental health, depression, anxiety, all the things that are under the umbrella of mental health. Our upbringing, our culture, who we are, our personality kind of shapes how we interact with our mental health and how it unfolds or how we react to different situations. So my question is, the very question I asked that night, how has your upbringing and culture shaped your mental health?
Yeah, I think mental health is not something that was typically spoken about growing up. I think I only really came to hear about it as an adult, like a full-grown adult, because being unwell or being unhealthy was always attributed to physical health. So if something hurts, that's when you're sick. In fact, if you can still be feeling ill and if nothing actually hurts, you're not in like full-blown pain, sometimes people don't even believe you. So imagine when you say, no, I'm feeling unwell because my mood is down. I mean, that's not even an illness.
Like, come on, we don't have time for this.
We don't have time for this. Get over it. So it's really something that I've come to understand as an adult, which I think is sad. That's something that should be talked about in the household, even from a very young age. Your mood matters, how you feel about things matters. Then now becoming a health professional and really understanding what it means to be depressed, what it means to be anxious. Because again, of course, in layman's language, we do tend to use these words a bit loosely, but in clinical practice,
me anxiety.
Yeah. So in clinical practice, there's a real criteria for diagnosing these things. Yeah. Not everyone who is sad is depressed. Yeah. Not everyone whose mood is low is depressed, or who's feeling a bit is actually anxious to say you have an anxiety disorder. Yeah. So those are actual diagnoses. Yeah, so that's been the change from growing up to not even appreciating what mental health is, to now understanding it, experiencing it, as an adult, and really understanding it from a medical point of view as well.
Right. Okay. To piggyback off what you just said, from the time you joined medical school until now, what has your experience been regarding depression and anxiety? Again, you've said it's not everybody whose mood is low that is depressed, or it's not everybody who's feeling a little anxious about something that has anxiety, or might be susceptible to things like panic attacks and things like that. But in your personal experience, how has your interaction with these things been? Have they shown up in your life, especially as a single mom? I was raised by a single mom, by the way. My stepdad only came into our lives when I was 11 going on 12. So from birth till 11 or 12, it was just me, my mom, and then my sister. And I saw the pressure. It was very evident. And she would try and, as a mom, you try and hide those things because you don't want your kids to see that finances are tight or you are overwhelmed, things like that. So I would see her trying to put on this brave face, but it always showed up. I was always aware of how hard things were for her, even at that young age. And so, you being a single mom to twins, like, okay, you're pregnant, you find out you're pregnant, but now it's 2. And I'll ask you about that a little further down in the conversation. But how have you had any instances where you have felt like very overwhelmed or very anxious and not knowing what to do, or is that something that you've not personally experienced?
Who hasn't? That would be weird if I said no. I've always been good. No, I've definitely experienced that, and for me, it's funny, when I look back at the times, some of the toughest times of my life, it's only in retrospect when I see how tough it really was. Yeah. It's almost like I think the brain comes up with some kind of protection mechanism, defense mechanism, where you don't really appreciate how difficult something is when you are really in the middle of it. It's now looking back when you're like, wow, how did I do that? So for me, some of the depressive, because again, clinical diagnosis, right? Episodes of my life have been, I've gotten to see how difficult they really are after the fact. Yeah. When I'm in the middle of it, it's almost like I'm a bit detached, and even to survive, and even just in the day-to-day, this is making me a bit emotional, but even just in the day-to-day, it's like, it's difficult to explain, but you get to a place where it's almost like difficult to notice your own symptoms. I don't know if that makes sense. It's only after some time you find maybe I'm not sleeping well. I'm not sleeping well, and I haven't even really noticed that I'm not sleeping well because there's just so much going on. Or I'm not eating that much. Then maybe in a conversation with someone, that's when you realize, wait a minute, I think I'm not eating. Why am I not? It's happening, but you are so detached from it that you're not even seeing, I'm not eating well. And then when you sit down and start to put together the pieces, you're like, I'm not okay. So for me, it's really been a journey of developing more self-awareness. It's almost like you step out of your body for a bit and you see, like, how is this person really doing? This person is not interacting with others as well, and then I help myself almost like I'm helping someone else from that perspective. So that's been my experience.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, so talking about the twins, they're getting famous. I think they might need their own page soon.
They do. They
might need their own page soon.
Yeah.
The beautiful Chipo and Tinta. Walk us through your pregnancy journey. Yeah. And I'm going to make the assumption here, like I kind of did at the launch. I shared how when I was going through what I share in my book, one of the things that I felt so strongly was like my failures were plastered on my forehead. Like everyone could see just by looking at me how much of a failure that I was. And could see the mistakes that I had made or the things that I wasn't doing right, that I thought that I wasn't doing right. And so that even made me not want to see people and be around people because I didn't want them to see me as a failure, right? And I can imagine that getting pregnant at the time that you did was not part of your plan, right? And when that happened, how did you navigate that? How did it unfold, and how did you process other people's feelings about it and your own feelings about it? And then you're falling in love with these babies as they're growing inside of you, and you think it's one and then you find out it's two, and then how was that? Was that more overwhelming? Tell us the story, please.
Goodness, I mean, this again is one of those things that I've just realized how, every day I realize how crazy it was. But it was just one of those things. I mean, of course, it's, it wasn't meant to happen, and all of that, which goes into another story of some of the decisions that I made. But obviously, to find out that they were twins, and even before the fact, I just knew that I had to keep these babies, this baby, because at the time I thought it was one. It was difficult for me to process what was going on. There was a lot going on with me at the time. I was in a very toxic situation as well, which is because, I don't even know if there's a because, but I was influenced by a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I needed to learn about myself. There's a lot of things I needed to let go of from childhood, which is not like something that went away in a year or two. It's been a journey of really healing, so at the time, it was really just a situation where I had to go day by day. I just knew somehow that I was going to be okay. It's very difficult to explain when God comforts you on that deep level where, there's no physical evidence of the fact that things will be okay right now. But somehow I just knew I just had to keep going on and everything was going to be okay. And there was no option but to have these babies. Anything else is out of the question. That's just where I was. And I don't even know where that deep conviction came from. One conversation I had was with someone who's very close to me. And, I called them on the phone and I told them. And I think, how can I explain the emotion? It sounded more like they were scared. It sounded more like they were scared. They weren't angry. They were scared and they were worried. It was being scared and worried. And they said, no, why don't you just drink some flagyl? That's metronidazole, of course, which is supposed to be used for a whole that use, but that was suggested. And to me, I didn't even flinch. It was I think I didn't even respond to that, but I knew I definitely was not going to do that. So I think if I remember correctly, I lied because I was told, no, if it's below this number of months, you can actually just drink this and it will pass and everything will be okay. And I lied. I said, no, it's big.
Further along.
I said, no, it's big. And for me, it just was out of the question, no matter how bad things were at the time, and they were bad. But God saw us through, and look at us now. So it was just, it was day by day. it was just day by day. What am I going to do today? You know, I was getting through med school.
Yeah.
At the time, I had to study.
Pressure.
I had to, maybe that's why they're so smart, because
you were studying together.
We studied so much. But yeah, I had to do all of that. I still had to be a student, and I still had to, you know, I'm someone who's always been self-reliant. Like, I had to find a way to make money as well while being a med student, you know, to buy stuff for the girls. And I remember at the time I used to sell Avon, you know, Avon products.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to sell Avon products, and I did that on campus. So I would literally do that with my big belly, and it was really big because it was twins.
Yes, right. And you're
It
so
was
small.
huge. It was huge. Yeah, and I would do that, and you know, I have this ability to just really concentrate on what I'm doing at that moment. Like, I can be very detached from what everyone else is doing. Like, it's to an extent where, you know, there'll be like gossip. I'm the last person to hear about gossip. Even news, I'm the last, because I'm just so in my own world.
Yeah.
And at first, I would be left out of a lot of things because of that. But I've come to understand that that's also God's way of protecting me. Because I have the ability to just completely shut out what everyone else is saying about me, and just really concentrate. Because even when you look at like growing on social media, there's a lot that comes with that, you know, like you need to have a certain kind of skin, and I think God has prepared me even for spaces like this because of that, you know, ability to just really mind my own business. So
tell me how you found out that you were having twins. Describe that moment.
So first I need to mention that my symptoms were really severe. Like,
yes, most people that are
I was so hungry all the time. Like, I would eat. And there were big babies too. Even when they were born, Tinta was 3.2 kgs and Chipo was 2.8. So I was carrying 6 kgs total. It's a lot of baby. Yeah, so I used to eat a lot. So even because I found out they were twins at 4 months. So even at even like really early on, I would get this just shivering kind of hunger where I just need to eat right now.
Wow.
And it was also growing significant, because at 4 months it looked like maybe 6, even 7 months, no more pregnancy. Yeah, it was quite big. So, but I just thought, maybe it's just a big baby, you know. So I went to get a scan, because I was at Unza Ridgeway campus. I went to some place in Kabwata. Yeah, I can't really remember where, but yeah, I went to get a scan, and so the radiographer, she was doing her thing, and you know, because of course I was a med student, and at the time I was actually doing my obs and gyne rotation. Yeah.
So this was like practical.
It was a practical. Yeah. So I was looking at the screen, because you know how they do it. She's doing her thing, and then you're looking at the screen, and I could see 2 shadows. I'm like, what's that thing on the other side? Like, why does this thing have 2 heads? It looks like 2 heads. What's this? So, you know, she paused, because I think she wanted to be really sure, but that silence for me was deafening, because I'm like, what is she about to tell me? What am I carrying in here? Yeah, and then it sounded like a really proud moment for her, because I think this doesn't happen every day, you know. So for her, it's a great day at work. So she said, no, I can see. So there's one baby here. No, she said, you're not having 1 baby, you're having 2. And I said, what? 2? How come? But I'll be honest, my first reaction was excitement. Yeah, my first reaction was, wow, like I'm so lucky, I'm so special, because who has twins? You know, like it doesn't happen every day. And I remember, because I was doing obs and gyne, and I remembered statistics. It's like 1 in 80 women. Wow. At the time, I don't know about now, but 1 in 80 women gets to have twins. So I'm like, I'm one of the 80, you know. I felt really special, and immediately after that thought, I got worried. Yeah. Because then I remember twin 2 and all of the things that happened to twin 2, you know, going into my medical brain. I'm like, but is the other one okay? And I was asking about that, and that was Tinta. yeah, is the other one okay? And she was like, yeah, she's okay. Oh, not she, but yeah, it's okay. And it was actually bigger than the first one, and the heartbeats were good and everything was okay. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how it happened.
Nice. Okay, so kind of back into our shadow ground depth of our conversation. You are pregnant kind of in the beginning of your med school. It sounds like you're doing this by yourself. So kind of tell us a little bit about how that went, but tie it in with this other question that I have. What are your thoughts about women of today? The whole feminist movement, and I don't need a man, I can do it all by myself. And what do you think? Because I personally don't think that that's how God's design is meant to be, right? Both genders are supposed to pour into one another. Whether you're married or single, you have brothers, you have sisters, whether they're your actual siblings or these are, siblings in Christ or whatever it is. But both genders have a role to play in the bigger picture of what God wants for creation. But we have this big movement that I think has only come up, I would say, in the last 10 years or so, of I don't need a man, and girl power, I can do it all by myself, and I can, and you are a strong woman, a very intellectual woman that has achieved amazing things. But I also know from your socials that you are not so far left, like, I'm the single power woman and I can do it all by myself. So, like, what are your thoughts? Yes, please share with the people. What are your thoughts?
What was the first part of the question again?
The first part of the question is, when you found out you were having twins, yes, where was the baby daddy? And how, like, was he in the picture, not in the picture? Did you have to be the strong woman, I don't need a man in that moment? Was it a decision you made, or did you have no control over the decision? And then, what has that taught you in connection to this big feminist movement that is there today?
Yeah, I mean, define in the picture or not in the, you know what I mean? Like, someone can be there, but they're not there. Like,
okay, this is my definition of in the picture. Were they in the room when you were taking that scan? Yes, no. After you found out you were having twins, were they in the picture enough for you for them to be the first person you called to share that news?
You know what? There's so much involved in actually saying that a person was in the picture or provided the support that needed to be provided. Yeah. I don't like to speak bad about anyone, but at the same time, I'm not going to disrespect myself by saying something nice just to be politically correct. You know, like, I'm not going to do that. So for me, did I get the help I should have gotten? No.
Yeah.
I can say no to that. Yeah. It definitely could have been better. And I'm not saying this to, like, cast blame. I mean, maybe there should be blame, but I'm not really interested in that. You know, I have nothing to gain from that. For me, it's just, of course, speaking my truth, recognizing the facts of what happened. I didn't get the support that I, deserved to get in that scenario. And someone being physically present in a room doesn't mean that they're offering the support in the context of everything else that happened, surrounding the situation. So for me, no. So I had to do a lot by myself. I mean, if I'm telling you that, I'm a pregnant student, who's going around selling Avon,
that paints a picture.
That paints a picture, of the fact that, yes, I had to be strong for myself, and I had to fill in a lot of gaps of things that were not being done for me.
How do you think you digging deep to be there for yourself, because this person wasn't there the way they were supposed to be, affected how you see men in general, or how you feel about being a strong woman? Did that kind of disturb your thought process about things like that, or did it give you a picture of, okay, I can still be this strong, independent woman that has my stuff together, but I still believe that I want a partner and I want to be loved? And there's a reason I'm asking this question, because it does pertain a lot to mental health, and I'll share a bit later.
I do share openly on my socials about my desire to be with someone,
Yes.
to be in a marriage. Some people think that's advertising. I have a I have a lot of reasons for sharing that, and one of them is just what you said. I think looking at my story, raising these girls by myself, being a career woman, someone would think, oh, maybe she just she's a feminist, like she's one of those people who doesn't want, and I don't believe in that, because I do believe mom, dad, family is God's design. And part of the reason I share that is to say, to be open about what I advocate for the young person who follows me, who looks up to me. They mustn't think just because this is how, my life is, that's like the ideal. Because, when you put yourself in a position to be a mentor, I think you have a responsibility to communicate some of these things, and I think for me, a lot of the women I've admired don't speak about this part of their lives. Like it's just the polished, the professional, and it's cute, it's nice, but
it's not real.
Yeah, but for me, I want to know what's really going on, and that's why sometimes I'm just like, look, this is where I am. Like, I wish I had someone, but God just hasn't brought that for me yet. But that doesn't mean there's no need for it, and that's part of the reason why I share that. So I think, as a Christian, I think, we have to aspire to God's design, which is mom, dad, and kids. And for me, deciding to leave a toxic situation to then be a single mom raising these kids, obviously was difficult, because I'm straying away from what I believe. It was very difficult. But it is a decision that God put on my heart as well. I know that my girls are still going to have that in their lives. It may not tangibly be here right now, but God will bless us, and it's also, it's not just for my sake, it's for their sake. I want them to have a good example. When they look at their parents, they should see the ideal of how a man should treat a woman, the idea of what a father is. It doesn't sit well with me to allow them to just, receive scraps of affection from a man and call that being a father, because I have seen firsthand what the impact of that later in life is. This will now be a woman who needs to seek validation of men, because she always had to perform, to get affection from her father, or she just got so little or none at all, just to get that presence, and just all of these things. So for me, it's ending a lot of generational trauma. It's it's bringing a lot of toxic cycles to an end. That's my decision. That's what led to my decision to be a single mom. But this is not the end of the story. And we see what God has in store.
Amen. I love that. I love that, and I'm believing for that for you. The reason why I brought in the issue of the feminist movement and all that stuff is because you are, like you're saying, you are someone of influence, someone people follow, and aspire to be like you. This person who has all these accolades at this young age and is doing the thing, right? Especially in Zambia, there aren't very many, women that are doing the thing. And so we want to celebrate the ones that are. But we don't want to get to a point where it's at the expense of our male counterparts. And for me, I'm very passionate about that, because I have a son and a daughter. And so the importance of both is very, very forefront in my mind a lot. You've talked about healing, And I believe that people who really are so far left in the feminist movement are people who have not healed. The reason why they say they don't need men is because a man somewhere down the line, like you said, hurt them, didn't show up for them, wasn't the provider, or something went down. And this woman, as amazing as she is, has not healed from that trauma, right? And you've talked about breaking generational trauma. And I started this interview with the question, how has your childhood and your upbringing affected your mental health? And a lot of people don't talk about the trauma we experience in our homes. We don't talk about the trauma that is passed on from generation to generation. And a lot of people term this as generational curses. And I think as Africans, we like to use the word curse because of a whole lot of other things. But really, it is cycles. Like you've said, trauma cycles repeating themselves generation after generation. Why? Because we don't talk about stuff. We don't address stuff. We shove everything under the rug. We don't talk to our kids about what happened to us because, I don't know, if we want to appear perfect to our children, I don't know what that is. It's like a combination of wanting to protect them and also be perfect for them, or I don't know. But that also doesn't help, because then you don't see your parents as real human beings who have lived life, made mistakes, and I can learn from that and grow from that. And so I'm really proud that you've taken it upon yourself to be like, hey, I am a mentor and I am someone who's influencing other people, and it's my responsibility to be like, hey, like, this is actually the way I see things, and it might change someone's perspective out there that maybe hasn't had the mom or sister or cousin or auntie to say things like that to them, to be like, yeah, this is where I'm at right now, but this is not the ideal, this is not what I want, this is not the end of my story. I'm not camping here, right? This is we're just in a waiting room, waiting for what God wants to do. I love that. So when we talk about healing, and the necessity of healing, like you said, I like how you said earlier, who hasn't experienced some form of depression and anxiety? We would be lying if we said, you know, we haven't had some level of trauma that we've needed to heal from, right, and walk through. And when we talk about healing from your perspective, what are some of the thoughts or beliefs that you believed either about yourself or God or others that you've had to like work to uproot and replace with truth?
Okay. So for me, I don't know how I can put it in terms of a belief, but I suffered from very low self-esteem, and a lot of it was first of all, there was an aspect of just lacking affection, and I'm not saying these things as excuses. It's just the rationale behind the behavior, because everyone does something for a reason. And when after the healing is done and you come to understand yourself and what really happened. So because of that, lacking affection as a child, and then witnessing certain things, especially in the area of dynamics of relationships between men and women, my idea of what love was very wrong. Like, it was very discontorted. I don't know if that's even a word. It was something else. It's absolutely not what it is, you know? So things like sometimes, I mean, of course, and I shared this at the book launch as well. As an educated woman, someone shouldn't hit you, right? But when you see that happen and people move past it, and you see this happen repeatedly as a child, there's a part of you that begins to think it's not that big a deal,
and it's normal.
Yeah, like that can happen, and it's like, as an intelligent woman, of course I know that should never happen, right? But it's very difficult to convince the child within me, that that's wrong. The child that saw this happen and people move past it like it's nothing. So when such things then start to happen to you, it's very difficult to explain to someone. That's why you can find someone is well educated but in an abusive relationship for years, and they can't leave because it's difficult to go back, explain to the inner child, to say, hey, this is wrong, this should never ever happen. The child who saw it, and the child who loved the perpetrator as well, and saw them as a human being who just made a mistake. It's very, very difficult. So for me, that's some of the the thinking that I had to undo, which was not easy, I can tell you that. So it's undoing those beliefs, increasing my self-worth, starting to love myself and really understanding what it is that I deserve. And that's the beauty of struggles, because when you go through difficult things and you see yourself go through them with grace, you pick yourself up, that's where you get your self-respect from. That's where you really learn to love yourself. And so even all of these things that happened to me, being a single mom, and what God has just blessed me, I've gone through a lot, and I've come out of it not just doing well. I'm not surviving, I'm thriving. So through this, I've developed a great deal of love for myself in such a way that I would never ever be in such a situation again. So when I look back on these experiences, that's what needed to happen. As bad and unfortunate as it was, that's what needed to happen. And I have two beautiful girls, so
When you talk about low self-esteem, I think that this is something a lot of women experience. In fact, more women experience this, and really having a solid self-worth because of their upbringing. And when you say that you struggled with low self-esteem, how did that show up in your life? Because with me, it showed up with weight, body image issues, anorexia in my teens, hanging out with people I should not have had anything to do with, wanting attention from the boy that really afterwards you're like, I didn't even really like this person, but why did I want his attention so bad? But if you can share some of the ways that it has shown up for you, just so that someone watching can be like, oh, I can definitely relate.
So for me, of course, in relationships, it I can't even say it anyway. It showed up as just picking the wrong person, who just should never have even been anywhere near me, because of people pleasing. So a lot of so it was really people pleasing was the big symptom that manifested in so many ways, meaning in relationships, even in work, in business, in friendships. It also just led me to just the worst friends who would, speak behind your back and do just the worst things, So it manifested in so many ways. And healing myself of that has led to me losing all of these people.
And having to rebuild. But, I've never been happier. So,
it takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of work, and it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
You've talked about losing weight. This is the beginning of the year. Everybody and their mother is like, I'm going to be healthier this year. I'm going to finally lose this weight. I'm going to do all this stuff. And you've used your personal journey to then help other people in this regard. But I want to tie in diet, exercise, just feeling good about your body and how that can affect your mental health. How the opposite, and you've talked about losing 20 kgs, that's a lot. So when you were at that point, how was it affecting you mentally? And how has losing the weight and changing your lifestyle, changing your diet, how has that impacted you, how you see yourself, and what you think about yourself?
So for me, losing, first of all, the weight gain was not the problem. I don't believe the weight itself is not the problem. It's a symptom of the problem. So you have to fix what the real issue is, on a deep level. And for me, I can't speak for everyone else. Of course I can tell you the science about what you need to eat and how you need to exercise. But you have to heal because I think God wants us to be healthy. God wants us to not just be healthy but feel good. He wants us to feel good in the bodies he made us in, you know. And it's not to say that one is not beautiful when they're a certain size, you know, but it's how do you feel in your body. You need to feel comfortable. And as much as, because you know, every time I share throwback pictures, like I think I did a few days ago on Facebook, but like you were looking so good.
We liked you this way. I've seen some of those comments. I'm like, but it's not about you though.
I know. So it's not about, you know, how you're looking, it's about how you feel. And I was so uncomfortable in my body. I was so uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And so it really takes of course, in addition to the science of it, it really takes addressing what has led me to being this size, like what has really led me to putting on this much weight. And when I got to that point and really started to investigate, I found that certain foods don't even make me feel good. Like even if I'm eating, so it's like, why am I doing this to myself? You know, when you eat the junk food, I don't like the way I feel after at the end of the day. It might be delicious, but I literally, my body doesn't feel good when I eat this food. When I eat healthy food, I feel light. I feel good, you know, I run like the wind. You know, I have so much energy, I sleep better. So when you see this difference, then you ask yourself, why do I keep going back to the unhealthy food? What is it in the unhealthy food that I'm looking for? And a lot of the time, it's an escape. You know, from what you're dealing with in your life. You're stressed at the end of a long work day. You're feeling like I need to reward myself. But then when you take away the food, you know, that's when you get to see what the problem really is. Why are your days so stressful? You know, why have you not, as an adult woman, developed any coping mechanisms that do not involve stuffing your face?
Wow.
You know.
Say that again for people in the back. Oh my gosh, that slapped. What?
Yeah, so, you know, that's why you now have to just sit with yourself and deal with the problem. And when you get to that place, you find that losing weight is so easy. It is so easy. It's literally just stop hating on yourself. You know, stop doing all these harmful things to yourself and just sit with yourself. And it doesn't mean you're doing anything, you know, extraordinary. Sometimes it means just sit with your problems. You know, just be there with them, you know.
But people don't do that.
That's the problem.
People don't do that. Like me and my friends often talk about how, like even how you're talking, I can tell you're the person who will be like, okay, Lord, we need to investigate this problem. What is happening within me? People don't ask themselves those questions. We just go. It's like we are living life on autopilot constantly. And you don't want to face reality of what is irking you or hurting you or breaking you from within. Even people who can say, oh no, I'm prayerful, I'm okay, then like, what do you pray about? Because when you sit with yourself, you and God, what do you like? Is he not telling you, my child, this issue? You know, like, people don't do that. And as a mom, and you talking about like how you wish certain conversations were had with you when you were younger. How do you train your kids? Is this something that you talk about with your girls? Like even when they have a temper tantrum or anything like that, to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is going on inside of you right now? Why are you having this outburst? What are you feeling? Those are not questions we were ever asked by our parents. And so now you're having to find language and discover these tools that you need to use on your kids, but they were never really given to you. Yeah, like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I had spoken about how the science part of weight loss is important, but for me, and I do this in my weight loss program as well with my clients, is I'm very deliberate about adding mindset to the mix, you know. And one of the things I emphasize is presence. Just being present with your body, being present in the moment. And you know, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like I said, first of all, you want to cut off stimuli, so things that cause your mind to escape from being in the present moment. Screens, we're talking about alcohol, substances. Sometimes it's not even something physical. It could be the need for external validation. you know, you have to dress a certain way so that people can give you compliments, you know. That can also be something that an escape.
Yeah.
You know, it can be the need for companionship. There's certain people, when they have problems, they always need to have someone around. They always need to ask someone else's opinion. You know, and it's stopping yourself in that moment and say, wait a minute, I can figure this out. You know, I can do this, I can make this decision by myself.
Yeah.
So when you start to cut off these stimuli, that's when you can really be present with yourself and present in your body. Yeah, because, you know, when all of this stuff is going on, you can't really listen to your body. Because I always say the body is so intelligent. You know, the same way your body would tell you that you're hungry, your body will tell you that you're full and you need to stop eating. But why do you keep eating? Because you're not listening to your body, because you're not present, you know, with your body. You are somewhere else. Yeah, your body can actually tell you when you need some exercise. Did you know that? Like, your body would tell you, you know, a walk would be nice right now. Yeah, like really. Like, it sends signals all the time. But if you are just in another world doing, you know, with all the external stimuli and whatnot, you can't even listen to that. So once you cut off these stimuli, you find that it gets easier, and you get to a place where weight loss is almost instinctive. Your body will even tell you what to eat. I know that sounds weird, but I'm telling you it's true. Your body will tell you, this food is not for you. This doesn't go down well for you. You need to eat something else. And when you get to that place, you feel like you hit a stride, and that's why you lose the most weight. Yeah. So when it comes to my kids, like to answer your question, walking them through their emotions helps. So it's after they throw the tantrum, or, you know, they do something bad, you tell them to stop, but they keep doing it. And then after, I try to just apply some rationale. Why are you doing this? You know, you ask them questions and you give them a chance. I think our parents sometimes never really used to give us a chance to answer.
I think they didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah, so it's asking them, why are you doing this? Why are you choosing to do this? You know, and yeah, but I'm still learning as a parent as well. You know, it's not a perfect process. Yeah, but yeah, we keep learning. I need to read more books probably. Yeah.
One thing that and this is kind of off topic, but one thing that I've learned in parenting my kids is that as I have parented them in kind of every age they've been so far, I'm simultaneously healing myself at that age, like the inner child in me at that age. When I'll like see something of myself in Caleb, or I'll see something of myself in Kiara, and the Lord is like, okay, we need to now address this. And then it's like, oh, I didn't even remember that, or I didn't even think that had happened, or I don't know. Yeah, but it's all about, again, like you're saying, being present, even in parenting, and not doing everything on autopilot. Having actual conversations with your kids and not just shoving a screen to them, you know, or giving them a snack. Because even parenting is like, we're just giving, eat something, here's a screen.
And keep quiet.
Yes, you know. Yeah, and it's like, it's the cycle all over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to diet and exercise before we move on. How is what you eat and how you move your body connected to how you feel in general, and you can unpack the whole, you know, the hormones that are released and all that stuff, because we know you know all that stuff. But then also, how does it impact how you feel about yourself, and why is that important for your mental health?
Oh my gosh, it's like you've already answered the question. Yeah, it's really important. I mean, it makes all the difference. What you put in your body, oh my goodness, like it's everything. It's you know, you're feeding the body, you're fueling the engine. You know, you're fueling the machine. What you put in your body is absolutely, you know, makes a world of difference in how you feel, how you perform, how you show up, how you even feel about yourself. And when it comes to how you feel about yourself, this also feeds into self-esteem. Because when you're doing the right thing, you know, you set a goal, it's the beginning of the year, and you set a goal and you see yourself following through, you gain so much respect for yourself. You know, before your body even changes, it's that feeling of, I did it, I can do it. You know, I am someone who can be relied upon. You know, I can show up for myself. That alone is such a big win. it's such a big win for your subconscious mind to see you following through on the plans you made. You know, waking up in the morning and going for that walk, going for that workout like you said you would. It makes all the difference in how you feel about yourself, which is why, of course, some of the fittest people have the highest self-esteem. Because of course the good looks are going to come, you know, you're fitting in your clothes well and all of that, but it's also the following through. Yeah, that really helps. And then when it comes to the scientific point of view, of course, things like endorphins, you know, released when you're working out. I mean, it's just the best way to start your day. And you know, studies have shown that having a diet which is high in junk food, so deep fried, sugary, highly processed foods, that's linked to having more depression. Like, it actually on a cellular level can cause depression to have a diet like that, versus someone who's having a more Mediterranean style diet, which is high in vegetables and fruits and low in processed foods. That person, scientifically speaking, is highly likely to have a more you know, elevated mood, healthier brain, let's say. So even from like the base of science, you know, it tells you that, you know, certain types of food are not good for you. And you know, I know it sounds like cut off all the things that you love,
all the nice
things, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of balance. But then, you know, a healthy food should be at least 80%. You know, start from somewhere. Not 50-50. Start from somewhere and find joy in the process. It doesn't have to be this miserable thing. You know, it's not, maybe if you don't like vegetables, don't start with like celery, you know. Everybody hates celery. But start with something that you like, you know, find the healthy foods that you like and enjoy those.
Shifting gears a little bit. We all go through different seasons of life, right? Childhood, adolescence, student life, then, you know, you're working or you're parenting, and in every season a new version, so to say, of ourselves has to show up to do what they need to do in that season. And from what you've shared on your socials and even what you've shared in this conversation, I picked up that you've gone through a number of different seasons. How have you navigated switching when it calls for it? You have to change gears, you have to switch because the season has shifted. You've talked recently about moving house, even on your, so all those are like shifts, you know. And if we don't make the shift and we stay kind of in the former gear but in a new season, I find that it does impact our mental health, and it does impact how we show up, like you're saying, and whether you're present in the moment. How have you navigated all the shifts in your seasons of life, and what are some tips, if you have any, that you can share about doing that well?
Okay. First of all, it starts from recognizing the need for change, because you can stay in the same place for a long time if you want to. You know, you can just stay miserable if you don't like it and just keep going, and life is just carrying you along. But it takes a lot of courage to make those shifts, and some of the biggest shifts I've made, and you've alluded to this, is professional shifts as well. I've had to, from being a doctor in the hospital to leaving now to do a fellowship, and then, you know, doing my own thing for some time, and now being in corporate, like it was a hard journey, but it took a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to recognize the need for change. I think something that God has placed on my heart is I'm not just going to let life happen to me. Like, I'm not the person to just sit by and just be miserable. And I told myself I'm going to create a life where I love everything I do, where I genuinely like everything I do. And if I look at it, because, you know, sometimes it's difficult to do what you like. It's a simple concept, but it's actually very difficult, especially when you are also looking at societal norms. Because anytime you stray away from what is the normal, because it doesn't bring you joy, there will always be someone saying, why are you doing this?
Like
you're supposed to be this.
Yes,
exactly. Like you're a doctor, you're supposed to be in a hospital, but it's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. That's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. It was good for a time, but I want to do something else. So it's having that courage to, first of all, sit with yourself, say, does this truly make me happy? If the answer is no, and I don't just mean happy today, I mean, because some
days are not going to be good even when you're doing what you love, right?
Yes, but I mean, where I see my life going, is this fitting in? Does it bring me joy? Do I feel fulfilled? And if the answer is no, have the courage to get up and do something else. And it's just trusting in God, because it's always the unknown when it's uncharted territory, So it's trusting in God and knowing that He's going to carry you to where you need to be. So of course, having a relationship with God helps when you're going through change. Having the courage to follow through, because God will send the people, God will send the blessings, but you need to get up. You need to do the thing. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but you need to get up and do the thing. And just be honest with yourself about what you really like, and you get to a place, of course, even when you start doing what you like, it's not like every day will be perfect. But you get to a place where you can find the joy in it. You've surrounded yourself with the things that you love. I think right now, I love being here with you. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than this is me, like I'm being myself. I'll go home to my kids. I love my kids. I'm obsessed with them. I've got a check-in with a client later. I love my clients because I love what I do. So it's a deliberate creation of surrounding yourself with the things that genuinely bring you joy. So I think my advice to someone is just to have the courage.
Wow, have the courage.
I feel like I've said so many things. I've said so many things.
So many good things though, and they're I like how you break down big ideas into small doable things. And you do that very well even on your social media. Because even when you talk about weight loss is a big deal for a lot of people, and it's so hard. But then the way you talk about it, it's like, can we remove all the fluff and all the industry stuff around this issue and just A plus B is, what I mean? I like that about how you bring out what you want to share and give to the world. It's really nice. Okay, last question. If you could go back and talk to your younger self, let's say 10, 15 years younger, what would you tell her?
10, 15 years, how many years?
What would you tell that girl, and why?
Oh my gosh. So your question reminds me of a question someone asked me. Was it yesterday or the day before? A workmate said, if you could choose the superpower, ask a group of us, what would it be? And I'm the only one who couldn't give an answer. I couldn't give an answer because I think, I don't know, maybe my positivity is a bit delusional. But it's bordering on the delusional, but I would not change a thing. I would not change a thing about myself, because I was thinking, what, super speed? So I go somewhere, but then I miss the journey. Then what's the fun in that? What, super riches? But I know I'm getting there anyway. I don't want to miss the, it's about the journey for me. So if I could speak to the younger me, I tell her that she's right. She's always known that she's special. And I just would like to confirm to her that she's right, because, you get that feeling inside of you where you're like, I think there's something about me. You're kind of sort of born with it, and it sounds delusional maybe even now, but I just would like to tell her that she's right. There is something about her, and even though she can't see any evidence of it right now, she should keep believing in that and keep going. And it's okay, and the hard times will make for even better times, so it's all worth it, and she should just keep going.
Awesome. I like that. Okay, before we conclude, before I tell you to say something to the people, what is your official review of Shadow Ground? you are one of my early readers. You did me the honor of reading my book early, which I really appreciated. And also you were on my panel at the book launch, and shared a lot of pieces of yourself that night, which I really appreciate. I really appreciated everybody's vulnerability, but yours as well. But if you could give like review of the book, thoughts about it, why it's helpful, what you thought about it, was it helpful to you?
I think for me, which is why I think I'm so drawn to you as well, and I do feel that what I like in some way is just the realness of it, and I could feel that even in the book. There's so much, I don't know if it's pressure or need to sugarcoat things nowadays, especially when something will be in the public eye. It's a book. You cut out the fluff. You didn't, it wasn't this, sometimes someone can be telling you, but they're telling you theories, and you're not really feeling their heart. And I love Shadow Ground because I could feel your heart, and you were just telling a real story from a real person, just written very, very well, So that's my favorite thing about the book. And I especially in our space, we don't get to see much of that. There's a lot of sugarcoating, a lot of maybe over editing, and all of that, and Shadow Ground doesn't have any of that, which is something I really love about the book.
Why would you recommend it to somebody?
It's just a reminder to everyone that you're not alone. Some of these things, especially that we go through as women, I mean, you shared a lot in the book about being a wife, being a mom, being a businesswoman. When you're failing in life, there's this feeling that it's just you.
Yeah.
I mean, in our intelligent minds, we know that it's probably not just me, but it feels like it's just me because everyone else just looks like they're doing so well.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't always have access to someone who will in person tell you that they've been through these things, but you can read a book and find out that it's not just you. Here's this woman who is now succeeding, who was succeeding even then, because like you see life from so many different angles, but that's just a real story of a real person, so I think it's just a reminder to anyone who reads it that they're not alone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, if you could share some final thoughts or words of encouragement to our famous warriors out there that are watching, just some last thoughts to tie everything that you've said together in this nice pretty little bowl, what would you say?
My final remarks would be, keep going, famous warrior. You are brave, you are stronger than you think, and the God who led you to where you are, to this situation, will lead you through it and to an even better place. So you have it in you, and you wouldn't be here if you couldn't get through it. So keep going, and we're rooting for you.
Yeah, we really are. We really, really are rooting for you, famous warrior. So we've come to the end of this conversation. I hope that it has blessed you, stirred you up, gotten you thinking about being more present in your life, maybe starting to journal, taking walks, something. Yes, we're at the beginning of a new year, and let's show up for ourselves. I think that's what I've gotten from this conversation. Let's show up more for ourselves, and in us showing up for ourselves, we then can show up for even what God has for us. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, whatever goals you've set for yourself, remember that you're worth the fight. You're worth the fight of showing up. You're worth the fight of doing the hard things. You're worth the fight of sitting with yourself, sometimes even in your pain, and doing the thing.